4, Pyramids of Mars, is... As the Doctor and Sarah attempt to return to Unit HQ, the TARDIS is thrown off course and materializes in 1911 at an old priory owned by Egyptologist Marcus Scarman. While excavating a tomb, the archaeologist became possessed by the spirit of Sutekh, the last survivor of the godlike Osirans. The Doctor and Sarah witness strange and deadly events as Sutekh, who has lain in prison in a pyramid for thousands of years, employs Scarman and a legion of robotic mummies in an elaborate scheme that may bring about the destruction of the world. Now, Pyramids of Mars, I was actually thoroughly impressed with, I have to admit, from just the whole look and the design of the whole thing, because they picked an old priory or mansion out in England, out in Britain, and it just looked very well, and the interior, of course, was studio, but it looked like it fit the era. It was like a perfect era, look to the era. It was just magnificent. Costumes were great. The look of the robotic mummies, the look of Sutekh, the look of, just everything Egyptian looked amazing. And it was a nice gothic tone to it. It was just beautiful. Everything, like I said, was just impressive. Everything from, like, acting, the tension, the drama, the action. It was all pretty well done, I have to admit. In particular, the role of Sutekh. The actor who played him, basically all he did was just sit there the entire time because he was in prison in a pyramid, so he was just had to sit there the entire time. But what was most important about Sutekh was his speech. He could have done anything like be really overly dramatic and taken it over the top and be like a really, oh, he must take revenge in this sort of... He could have done something like that. It would have been kind of like I said, over the top and not as memorable. But instead he did this very low whispery, not really whispery, just kind of, there's just this low voice. He just spoke in a monotone. It was very creepy, kind of creepy in a way. In fact, it kind of reminded me of the character Scarecrow, the villain Scarecrow from the Batman comics and TV shows and movies and all that. It's just like, wow, that voice is perfect for Scarecrow. That's what it made me think. But it was just this very good creepy voice that just spoke like this the entire time. Oh, we must catch the Doctor. Yes, you must obey me and follow me, and I will do everything to destroy the world. It was very, very well done. Obviously, I can't do it as well as he did, but it was very cool. The mummies, the robotic mummies were kind of interesting. These big, bulky things that just walked around kind of almost weirdly, but were very strong. And they were interesting and also very menacing. Their face, though, you could kind of interpret. They didn't really have a face. The mummy wrapping kind of had these deep grooves for like eyes that kind of went like this and out like this. So there's like this big hole right here where people could see through. But it just kind of gave this like this emotionless look face to it. And I thought that was pretty cool. The locations were very nice, like where they pre-filmed their stuff that was actually on film. The intercut between the studio stuff was filmed out near the priory where they filmed the actual location stuff in the wooded area, and that looked very gorgeous, very, very, very well done. In fact, it also kind of reminded me of old school movies where you're trying to run away from the monster. There was also kind of continuity. The continuity for this was actually kind of cool because they talk about how the priory they were in was later burned down, and then the mansion was built on top of it that later unit will actually own and becomes unit headquarters. So that was a nice little history and continuity with that. The whole Egyptian thing to it was pretty cool too. That was a nice addition to the story, because they always do different mythologies and stuff, and give a kind of like a science fiction reasoning to it. Like with this, like with the Loch Ness Monster, Invasion of the Zygons, and the Terror of the Zygons. The Loch Ness Monster was like a cyborg monster that the Zygons had, and in this one, they're kind of doing I think they touched upon it before, I can't remember where the old gods were actually aliens. Whereas this one, the Egyptians worshipped these gods. I think they were called Osirans. They were from a far distant planet that is no longer around. In fact, all the Osirans are dead. Sutekh is the last of them. And he's the bringer of death. He wants to destroy everything in his wake. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's just an old theory that's been around even before, I think, even science fiction touched upon it. But there are people who kind of think maybe the gods were aliens, and some things they helped us were actually machines or something like that. So that was pretty cool. And the special effects were actually quite interesting. Some of the things that they did, special effects wise, was pretty well done. Granted, yes, some things kind of look kind of a bit off a little bit. Like there's one point where this person's face, one of the characters' face is just standing still, and then they fade in the Sutek kind of like goat-like head over his face, and it's like the fade just didn't go 100% right. It was still cool how the head on top of his body, but just it was like maybe I'll just say maybe 85 or 75% convincing, but it was just didn't quite get there. But it was still a pretty good attempt, and some of the green screen and blue screen was well done. It didn't seem like it was as obvious as it was during the Jon Pertwee era. It was kind of more blended in. I thought that was cool. Well, one thing I've always liked about Tom Baker is that he's always pretty alien, and he's kind of very kooky and weird and funny. And there's a moment in this story where they're actually on Mars, in a period of Mars that has the power that's holding Sutek. And they're trying to catch up to the villains. And there's this one point where they do catch up to the villains, and the mummy is just turning around to take a look. And Sarah and the Doctor walk into frame. And they see the mummy, and they're supposed to turn away. And the script, they were supposed to probably be like, turn in, they go, oh crap, move back out of the way, or he grabs her and moves out of the way, or something like that. Something that probably Jon Pertwee or some of the other Doctors would have done. But Tom Baker and Sarah Jane decide to make it something funny. And so what they do, they just go, they turn right around. As soon as they see the mummy, they turn right around and go away. It was pretty freaking hilarious. I had a good laugh at that, and one of my brothers, because I Vine these episodes, when I Vine that funny moment, my brother saw it, and he laughed and laughed. It was such a good moment. It was just simple. Go right away just before the mummy saw them. It was great. But in the end, overall, this was really enjoyable. Like I said, impressive. It's a good story. Something that should be looked at and kind of like enjoyed. It's just a good story. And yes, it has some deaths. Some of them, one of them may be a little violent, but it's not something that needs to scar anybody. It was just because somebody gets kind of squished, a little bit, not flattened, but just squished. And some things maybe for little kids might find terrifying, but as, a 12 or 9-year-old or higher, you probably think, oh, it's not that scary. Kind of tense, but not scary. But it was pretty good stuff. And I kind of mentioned about, being scary or whatnot for little kids and whatnot, because this is one of the stories where there was this woman around that time, and she particularly hated the Tom Baker era because this woman was named Mary Whitehouse, and she was trying to clean up television, trying to say, oh, we need something that's more clean and this and that, and Doctor Who is our garbage. And I'm pretty sure some of you don't know about Mary Whitehouse, are probably going, what the heck is that? What is she? She's an idiot. And yes, she is. But she, what was it, one of the script editor, Terrence Dicks, always said, the one thing I think Mary Whitehouse hated more than sex was Doctor Who. And she complained rigorously about Doctor Who, about how violent it is, how scary it is. She always thought that Doctor Who was more meant for toddlers. She didn't understand it was more for everybody, the whole family, and therefore they had to keep it entertaining for everybody. And also, to me, I've always noticed that the show, since the Pertwee era in particular, it started growing up with its audience. They realized, okay, the people who have been watching it since the William Hartnell era are now older. We need to make it also for them as well as the parents for them. So it was growing up with the audience as well. That's the way I felt about it. And the violence that she's talking about isn't that bad. I mean, even the cliffhanger, sometimes the cliffhanger ends on something that you think was like really, really violent, but it's just a cliffhanger, something that gets you back to the next episode. And even when it's done to it, that cliffhanger, where they suggest the hero died, 90 to 100% time, they're coming back in the next episode anyway. You just want to find out how. So it's just that she just didn't understand that because she was so narrow-minded. But again, it's just up to you. If you think it's too violent, it's too violent. Don't watch it again. Don't have don't have your family watch it. But it's fairly simple. It's real simple violence. It's not that bad. Like I said, I found this story very well done. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have to give this one 5 stars out of 5. It was fun, funny, scary, enjoyable. The tone, atmosphere, everything was just beautiful. I highly recommend this one for any Doctor Who fan that's like looking for a great Tom Baker story, because around this time was the height of Doctor Who. Doctor Who was at the highest ratings. People were watching in both Britain and America, and the producer and the script editor were trying to make darker, scarier, more horror or thrilling stories. This is something that was a little bit of both childish and adults adultish, something for both, you know, both ages to like, and it's just getting really, really enjoyable. So this is something I'd recommend for people to watch of Doctor Who, to say, what is Doctor Who? What is it? Is it really enjoyable? I'd go, here, borrow this one. Watch this one. This one is really good. So, you know, it's something to get them into it. But other than that, there's nothing really to watch. I mean, really talk about. I hope to see more of the Tom Baker ones. I'm really, really enjoying the Tom Baker ones. This guy, like I said, is my favorite Doctor. I'd like to see more episodes, and I can't wait for the next set of DVDs to come in, and for me to actually talk about them with you and review them. Until next time, see you then.